Shalom, shalom. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, whenever you are watching this. Welcome. We are glad you are here with us here today. Thank you for joining us at the Olive Tree Messianic Fellowship. Maybe you're watching this for the first time. We are glad that you are here. Please go and check out all previous videos from previous studies, either Tuesday night studies or our Saturday Shabbat service. We've just came out literally of a very interesting time of year, the Feast of Hanukkah, in which we have a lot of good, interesting studies in which you will want to go listen to. So make sure and go check that out on our social media pages and on our website. Again, thank you for being here with us today. Speaking of our website, here it is, olivetreemessianic.org. Go there and you can access all of our social media sites, including announcements. Again, we're starting to wind down on some of the announcements because we're winding down on some of our events. Let me fix something here real fast. So you won't have as many announcements on there as usual, but yet still it is good to go check those out because we still have some things coming down the pipe. So please go do that. Join us every week. Again, if you are new, if you've never been there, you are welcome. I get all kinds of questions. I'm not Jewish. Am I still welcome? Of course you are. What should I wear? Wear your best. I've not lived a good life. Come as you are. Come and learn of the word of God. We want to teach you. We want to show you the way. We want to point you to the light, which is Yeshua. Also, social media. Again, if you've not been following us through the book of John, you can go to our social media platforms and there you can watch previous lessons. We started in John chapter 1. We're all the way up to John chapter 18. Can you believe we started this lesson, mid-January of last year? Well, it's still this year, 2025, but it's almost been one whole calendar year since we started this. We've been slowly going through it. Yeah, we have to take some weeks off. And as a matter of fact, we're getting ready to take some weeks off. This will probably be the last video you see for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. So go check us out. If you have any of these social media platforms, I would love to hear from you. I would love to see that you have subscribed or following us. Click for the notifications so that you can be notified anytime we post a video or anytime that we go live. Also, if you want to give to our ministry, if you want to help us reach a lost and dying and dark world by shining the light of Yeshua, all you have to do is take your phone, go to your picture app or phone or a camera app, your camera app on your phone, scan this QR code. It will take you to our PayPal page. It will walk you through the directions and how to get to, I've got one of our members calling me right now. It will walk you how to get to our PayPal page so that you can help keep this ministry going. Okay, let's get right into our study. Again, I'm glad you are here with us today. We are studying John chapter 18. Last week, we only made it through 2 verses. Why? Because we had to go back into Matthew to get the complete story. And we're going to have to do the same today. But today we're going to make it through more verses in John chapter 18. We're going to make it all the way up to verse 14. John 18, 3 through 14. And you see on here, I say my version of the World Messianic Bible. What do I mean by that? I started with the World Messianic Bible, but then I made it a little bit more messianic with a few more messianic names and just changed things up a little bit here and there. The World Messianic is very similar to the New King James, which I have in my hand here, but it still flows very well with the Tree of Life or with the New American Standard, the English Standard Version, whichever one you have. You know that I like using several. I like using the New King James because of their Greek text that they translate from. I believe it is the most accurate. I'm not against others, but I also like using the New King James because of the textual notes that they have in there as well, particular for the New Testament. So, John 18, grab your pen, grab your paper, grab your Bible, whichever one you're using, or you can follow along with us on the screen. John 18, verse 3. Then Judah, or that is the proper Hebrew name there, Judah, but most Bibles, including the New King James, says Judas. So Judas or Judah, having taken a detachment of soldiers, I believe the New King James there says troops, and officers from the Kohen Hagadol, the Kohen Hagadol. What is Kohen Hagadol? Kohen is priest, Ha is the, Gadol is great or high. So in other words, the high priest. Remember, Hebrew is backwards. That's why it has Kohen first. Kohen, it's backwards to us English speakers anyways. Kohen Hagadol. So Judas, he took a detachment, a group of soldiers and officers from the high priest, Kohen Hagadol, and the Parashim, the Pharisees. And he came there. Where is there? The Garden of Gethsemane. Remember in last week's study, they left the upper room after 3 chapters worth of study at the Last Supper, which was a Passover Seder, starting in John 13 all the way through 17. Actually, 16 was the study. 17, Yeshua went into some deep prayer. And now here in 18, they crossed over the Kidron Valley. So now they are in the Garden of Gethsemane. And remember, Judas left them way back around John chapter 13, I believe. And he went and sold Yeshua out for 13 pieces of silver. Remember that? Or 13 coins, I shall say, to be exactly accurate. So he came to the Garden of Gethsemane with this detachment of soldiers. They had lanterns, they had torches, they had weapons. Why? It was nighttime. They needed the light. Why did they have the weapons? Well, they knew Peter had a weapon. They didn't know how many others. Well, Judas, he probably knew. But they thought they were going to be a fight. So they came to get Yeshua by force. So again, just like last week, we have to stop after reading John 18, verse 3. Before moving on to verse 4, John does not include some important details. I mean, he gives the story, but in every story, there's details. He doesn't include in his letter, in his book, some important details of this story. In every event told by the gospel authors, we said this last week, each saw different things. You know, they were all there in person, but each saw different things. Actually, Mark wasn't there in person. Peter told Mark, and Mark wrote it all down. This happened later. But they saw different things. So they reported or they wrote about different things in their writings. Some might have seen or heard the same thing, but either they chose to include it or not include it in their writings. So John did not include what Matthew does. So if you have your Bible, go to Matthew 26, or if you're following along with us, Matthew 26, verse 47. Again, this is an adapted World Messianic Bible translation. It's very close to the New King James. While he was still speaking, I should have capitalized that he there. There you go. While he was still speaking, Yeshua, behold, Judah or Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, or at least he was, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and clubs. Remember what it says up here? Weapons in John 18:3. Swords and clubs. So Matthew breaks down what type of weapons. From the head Kohanim. Remember, John said Kohen Hagadol, the high priest, the head priest, plural, Kohanim, Matthew says, and elders. Remember, John says the Pharisees, the Parashim of the people. Verse 48. Now he who betrayed, he there being Judas, now he who betrayed him, Yeshua, had given them, the soldiers, the troops, a sign, saying, whoever I kiss, he, that would be Yeshua, is the one. Sees him, sees Yeshua. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to kiss this man on the cheek, and ever who I kiss, that's the one. Grab and seize him. Okay, I see we're having problems with the camera here, but I'm going to keep flowing with this. So hopefully, see the camera is completely going in and out, but I'm going to keep flowing because I don't want to stop this study. Verse 49. Immediately, he, Judas, came to Yeshua and said, Shalom. Some translations there say greetings, but we know what the Hebrew greeting is, right? It is Shalom. That's what they say in Israel. Shalom, Rabbi. And he kissed him. Oh, there's the sign. Verse 50. Yeshua said to him, friend. Now, can you imagine that? Think about that for a second. How hard would that be? You know he's betraying you. You know he's having you arrested, and you're ultimately going to be killed. But yet Yeshua still calls him friend. He says, Shalom, or I'm sorry. Yeshua says to him, friend, why are you here? Now, of course, he knows why he's there, but it has to be spoken. It has to be done. Then they came and laid hands on Yeshua and took him. Okay. Now, Matthew leaves out some important details in this story. So now we got to go back to John. So if you have your Bible, turn back to John chapter 18, verse 4, and let's continue the narrative or the story there. Yeshua, therefore, knowing all things. Now, how did he know all things? Through the Holy Spirit. He was human like us, but he was God as well. He was 100% God. He was 100% human. It was through the Holy Spirit that he knew these things. And again, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties with the camera, but we're going to continue on. Just watch the screen, okay? Just as long as my audio is still working, then we should still be good. So just because it says Yeshua knew all things, that doesn't mean that he knew all things all the time. He had to seek the Lord just like we do. He had to listen to the Holy Spirit. He had to be led by the Holy Spirit. But he was informed by the Father through the Holy Spirit on how these events were going to go down. And by the way, I apologize. I just turned off the camera I had to pause this recording, so I hope it smoothly went through. But I'm having technical difficulties with the camera today, so I just paused that. But you should still be able to hear me. So Yeshua was informed by the Father what was going to happen to him. And he went out and said to them, to this group of troops, this group of soldiers, he said, "Who are you?" Now again, we've backed up a little bit in the narrative. We already read this in Matthew here, but we backed up just a little bit in John, because John's going to go deeper and give more details. So Yeshua says, "Who are you looking for?" Not "who are you?" I'm sorry, I misquoted that a moment ago, but who are you looking for? Remember up here in Matthew, he said, "Friend, why are you here?" Now he says, "Who are you looking for?" Again, he knows, but he wanted, I've taught this before. Words are powerful, right? Words speak things into existence. It can mold and shape our day and our life and our circumstances and situations. Judas or Judah needed to speak it. Verse 5 of John 18. They answered him. They answered Yeshua. They said, "Yeshua of Nazareth." I believe literally, if you look in the Greek there, I believe the New King James says that. Let me verify this for you real fast in my own Bible. Yes, that is the case. That is literally Yeshua the Nazarene. We are looking for Yeshua the Nazarene, Yeshua from or of Nazareth. Yeshua said to them, "I am he." Why is he in italics? That's something the King James Bible does and the New King James, and I like it. Not every Bible translation does it. But an italicized word in the King James and New King James means that is not in the original language, either Hebrew for Old Testament, Greek for the New. So why do they put it in there? To help us make sense of the meaning of what is being said. So I think those words are appropriate. They are good. They are needed. But I like how King James and New King James italicize them so that we know that they're not in the original. So Yeshua says, "I am. I am he." Now, does that sound like how we would answer that question? Sounds a little bit awkward, right? Like not modern. He could have said, okay, so let's read all verse 5 again. They answered him and they said, we're looking for Yeshua from Nazareth. And Yeshua said, "Well, that's me." He could have phrased it that way. Or he could have said, "Well, I'm him." But he said, "I am. I am." He didn't say he said, "I am." What's that a reference to? Remember when Moses asked God at the burning bush? Moses said, when I go back to Egypt and I talk to the Israelites, to the Hebrews, and they say, "Who sent you? Who am I to say sent me?" And God told Moses, "I am who I am." So this is Yeshua saying that he is God. He's not only man, but he is God in the flesh. So Judas or Judah, who betrayed him, was standing with them. Verse 6 of John 18. When therefore he, Yeshua, said to them, Judas and these troops, "I am," they fell backward, or they went backward and fell to the ground. Why do you think they did that? because Yeshua said, I am. He said, I am God. And you are here. I'm paraphrasing now, but I mean, this is what was meant. I am God, and you are here to arrest me. It was just so powerful. Boom. They all hit the ground in the presence of Almighty God. Whether they wanted to or not, they were worshiping him on their face. John 18:7. Again, therefore. So Yeshua asked them again, because he's like, do you want to change your mind? You sure about? Again, I'm paraphrasing, but God is a God of second chances. God is a God of mercy. God is a God of grace. God is a God of love. So he asked them again. Again, therefore, he asked, who are you looking for? And they come right back again with the same answer. Yeshua of Nazareth in Hebrew, Yeshua of Nazareth, but literally in the Greek, it says Yeshua the Nazarene. John 18:5 or 18:8. I'm sorry, 18:8. Yeshua answered, I told you that I am. And again, he is put in there for our clarity. I told you that I'm God. I'm he who you're looking for. You're here to arrest God in the flesh. If therefore you seek me, let these, who's that referring to? The Talmudim, the disciples, go their way. Don't arrest them. Don't bother them. Let them go their way. Do you see why this is so important? So if we were studying back here in Matthew, so let's keep our place in verse 8 there. We're finished with verse 8. But if we were studying expository through Matthew 26, Matthew doesn't include this in his gospel. This is why it's so important. And I've hit on this now for the past weeks. It's so important that we put all four of the gospels together as one narrative, as one true story, because there we get the full picture. But again, John's gospel doesn't include everything either. So John 18:9. So back in verse 8, he said, let these go. Let them go their way, that the word might be fulfilled, which he spoke, which Yeshua himself spoke just one chapter earlier. Of those whom you, God the Father, have given me, Yeshua, I have lost none. And that's a reference to John 17, verse 12. But again, we know that he loses Judas, right? It's in the process of him. I mean, he lost him basically when he got up from that table at the last Passover Seder and went to the Pharisees and sold Yeshua out for money, for 30 pieces of silver, 30 coins. John 18:10. Shimon Kepha. In English, Simon Peter. Shimon Kepha, therefore, having a sword. See, Judas knew Peter. He knew Peter had a sword. He knew Peter was zealous. He knew Peter would do this. That's why he went and brought a whole detachment of soldiers, a whole detachment of troops with him, with weapons, with swords and with clubs, because he knew Peter would give him problems. And maybe he didn't know about the others, whether they did or did not have weapons. Now, I pointed this out last week. I don't have no problem with people carrying weapons, but again, Yeshua didn't carry one, and neither does Yeshua. He knows that Peter has it, and we'll see that in the next verse. But Shimon Kepha, he pulled his sword, he drew it, and he struck the Cohen, the priest, Hagadol, the high priest servant, and he cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Yeshua, therefore, said to Kepha, said to Peter, said to Kepha, he said, put the sword into its sheath or into its holder. The cup, remember last week I talked about the cup. I think he's referring to the cup of wrath, the cup of plagues. He drunk the curse, the cup of curses for us. He took that upon himself so that we don't have to. The cup which the Father has given me they're referring to Yeshua, shall I not surely drink it? He says, I have to do this. Okay, so at this point in the narrative, we have to stop with John's telling, and we have to go back to Matthew. Why? Because again, John leaves some details out here. And I want to point out before we go back to Matthew, though, look here in John 18:10. John, he was the disciple, according to his own words, that Yeshua loved. You got to remember, these were just young teenagers. Kepha, Peter, was the oldest. He was early 20s, probably. The others were maybe older teens. And I think John was very competitive. And John wanted to be the favorite. That's why John says, I'm the disciple that Yeshua loved. I'm the one that sat beside him at the Last Supper. I'm the one that laid over into his bosom, his chest. And he likes to rat people out. I bet John did that. And here he ratted Kepha out to all of us. He said, Shimon Kepha, he's the one that drew the sword. Yep, it was him. He's the one that cut the right ear off of Malchus. But look down here at Matthew. Matthew, the tax collector. Matthew was used to dealing with the Romans, and Matthew was probably one that did not tattle much on people. Maybe he did when he was a tax collector, but he's left that behind. Now he knows better. So Matthew says, behold, one of those who were with Yeshua. He doesn't rat Peter out to us today in his story. One of those who were with Yeshua stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck the servant of the Cohen Hagadol, the high priest, and cut off his ear. It doesn't even say right ear, left ear, but John points it out that it's the right ear. Verse 52, then Yeshua said to Kepha, put your sword back into its place. It doesn't even say sheath here, which it doesn't matter. We know that's what it is. We know it's the sword holder. For all those who take the sword will die by the sword. Now, he doesn't tell Peter, why are you carrying a weapon? No, he's okay with it because he knows that they need protection, that they need safety. Now, notice all of them did not have one. Neither did Yeshua, but Yeshua was okay with Peter having one for self-defense, not to go on the offense, but only to defend yourself. That's the only purpose of having one. And of maybe they wanted to kill an animal for meat or food as well. That would be another reason. Other than that, they're not to take an innocent person's life. They're not to go on the offense. Because here Yeshua says, if you're going to fight with weapons, you're liable to get killed yourself. Verse 53. Or do you think that I couldn't ask my Father? Oh, this is amazing. This is a detail that John left out, but it is amazing. He's telling Peter, why are you drawing your sword? Don't you think I could ask the Father? And he would even now send more than 12 legions of angels, more than 12,000. Wow. Legions. I'm pretty sure that is 1,000. Let me check that real fast. Okay, a legion. Oh, a legion of soldiers is a unit of 3,000 to 6,000 men in the Roman army. Wow. And Yeshua says God would have sent 12 of those. Wow. Think about that. And guess what? We have angels around us. We can cry out for help, and they will come to our rescue as well. Angels is not loved ones who have passed away. That is not what an angel is, okay? I hear people say all the time, my loved one who's passed, now they're my guardian angel. No, your loved one who has passed, Scripture says, is resting in Yeshua, resting in Christ, resting in Messiah. They are at rest. They did not go turn into an angel. They are waiting for the resurrection. So we can cry out and God will send angels to our rescue. Yeshua told Peter, why did you have to do that? Verse 54, Matthew 26:54. How then would the scriptures be fulfilled that it must be so, that the Messiah must suffer? Isaiah 53, Messiah must suffer for the people. And here in just a moment, you're going to have one of the high priests, actually Caiaphas, I believe. He prophesies that Messiah must suffer for the people. He don't know that he's doing it, but he does. Verse 55. In that hour, Yeshua said to the multitudes, have you come out against a robber? Okay, he's talking to these troops who came out with swords and with clubs. He says, look who you come out to arrest here. I've been with you. I've been teaching you in the temple. And here you come out with swords and clubs to seize me. He says, I sat daily with you every day in the temple teaching. Over this past week, you examined me just like you examine the Passover lamb. On the 10th of Nisan, they would take in the Passover lamb and they would examine it for 4 days before killing it on the eve of the 14th at sunset during twilight. Yeshua sat with them. He rode in on the donkey on Nisan the 10th. And he sat with them in the temple until it was time to eat the Seder on the eve, twilight of the 14th of Nisan as the 15th started. He said, you could have arrested me then, but you didn't. Well, one reason why they didn't, because it wasn't time. You see in the Gospels, Yeshua walked right through them a few times. Why? Because I believe God almost like just froze them. You ever watch those videos where they're just frozen? the people are, and somebody can just walk right through them. Verse 56. But all of this has happened that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Remember, I just alluded to Isaiah 53. It had to be fulfilled. And it just gets me when people say that I have to suffer too. I have to go through this in life. God's wanting me to go through this. Yeshua suffered. I had to suffer. No, he suffered so you don't have to suffer. He suffered the curse of breaking the law so that we don't have to. So do not, never put yourself up there on the same level of Yeshua like that. We're almost done. I know this lesson's a little bit shorter today, but this is a good stopping point that we're coming to. Let's go back to John now. So if you have your Bible, go back to John 18, and let's continue the narrative. I've tried to put this in a proper narrative order for you, going from John to Matthew and back to John. So the detachment, remember the troops, the commanding officer, and the officers of the Jews, the Jewish leader, the Jewish leaders, the Judean leaders, seized Yeshua and bound him. Now, let me point something out to you real fast. I wish I could come back to you on the camera, but it's again not working at the moment. So, don't you just love technology? You see, I've got the camera back working now. I actually had to pause the teaching. This is twice I've had to pause it. I don't know if you can see when that happens or not, but I was able to pause it, go over and grab another external camera and hook to my computer and get that working. Those of you who know me, you heard me say this on Shabbat. If you know me, I never let the devil win. I always keep pushing for a solution and try to get things fixed. So praise God for that gift and that knowledge that he has given me, and for this technology that we have, which is, again, it's so important for you to support us in that so that we can keep this technology. John 18, I wanted to point something out. We only have 3 verses left, and then we're going to stop for tonight. And again, we're probably not going to pick this back up again for at least 2 to 3 weeks. But before we stop, John 18:12, look at how that is worded. I probably should have changed this. I did change it down here in verse 14. You see where it says Judean leaders? Look up here. It just says the Jews. A lot of people read phrases like that. The Jews seized Yeshua and bound him. And they look at that in an anti-Semitic way. They use that to fuel anti-Semitism. And I think that it could be translated better in the Bible. I get it in the original Hebrew and Greek. Maybe that's exactly what it said. I don't know. But I got this phrase down here. You know, I told you that this is a version of the World Messianic Bible that I made a little more messianic here and there, but still stayed true to the original meaning. Well, the Tree of Life version, I love how the Tree of Life version puts Judean leaders. That's where I got that phrase from in verse 14. Again, I probably should have put that up there in verse 12, but I did not. So the detachment, the soldiers, I'm back up here in verse 12, the commanding officer and all the officers under him of the Judean leaders seized Yeshua and they bound him. Why is that important? Since I got my camera back, let me just come back to you for a second. Why is that important that we phrase that like that? Because I think it is more accurate. Really and truly, if you look at who disliked Yeshua, at who wanted Yeshua arrested, who wanted Yeshua crucified, was it every Jew in Israel? No. A matter of fact, only a very few Jews wanted Yeshua crucified. And really, it's common sense. Look at the thousands who he fed. Look at the thousands who followed him. He had to get away from them. He had to cross over on boats. He had to get away from them. So I believe if they could have took a vote, democracy, a vote on who wanted Yeshua crucified, who wanted him to be set free, I think it would have been clear. I think maybe as much as 90% of the people would have voted to let Yeshua go. He is the Messiah. He is the king. Or maybe some of them would have said, I don't know if he's the Messiah. I don't know if he's the king of the Jews, but I know he's good. I know he does good. So it was only the crooked leadership. And you're going to see that as we continue to study this over the coming weeks. When they have Yeshua standing there with Pontius Pilate and the crowd is shouting, crucify him, crucify him. I believe a lot of the people in that crowd was probably paid off. Or if they weren't paid off, they were working for some of the crooked Jewish leadership. The crooked Jewish leadership was there in the crowd. And they're like, oh, we have to agree with them. We can't go against them because then they will go against us. They won't help us. So it's important to know all that when reading this. Do not make that an anti-Jewish statement or an anti-Semitic statement. Do not twist it. Let's continue to read in verse 13. Verse 13. Give me a second. I'm having trouble with my mouse now. Verse 13. And they led him, Yeshua, to Annas first. So they first led him to Annas. Why? For he was the father-in-law to Caiaphas. Caiaphas was the high priest, who was Cohen Gadol, the high priest that year. Now it was Caiaphas, I'm down here in verse 14, who advised the Judean leaders that it was, listen, it was expedient that one man should perish for the people. Look at that phrase. Look at who's saying it. Caiaphas. He's really prophesying. He's saying one man should suffer for the people. Now, he was saying that, though, in a negative way. He was saying it's better for Yeshua to die than Rome to come kill all of us people, than Rome to come and wipe us all out. It's better for one man to die than for Rome to slaughter the whole nation. Well, here's the truth of the matter, though. It's better for one man, Yeshua, to die and suffer the consequence of sin rather than all of us to have to be thrown into the lake of fire at the end and suffer the consequence of our sin, which is death. You know, they call that the second death. Eternal life is only in God. Eternal life is only in heaven. And it's better for Yeshua to have suffered and paid that penalty than all of us. And Caiaphas didn't know, but that's exactly what he was saying. See, this is why I said earlier that words are powerful. And Yeshua, he gave Judas another chance. He said, "Who are you here for? Speak." He even asked him twice. So I hope you got something out of this study tonight. I know that I was a little bit scatterbrained with this camera, and I just thank God for the Holy Spirit being able to pull me back and bring me back to keep my focus during this study. We're going to have this. I don't have it right now immediately, but I will have this with Spanish subtitles or closed caption at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to share all of this as well. If you're watching even the Spanish subtitle video, share that also. Help us out. Scan this QR code with your camera app, and it will take you to our PayPal page. Again, without you doing this, without you financially helping us here at the Olive Tree, we wouldn't have the technology to do all this. We wouldn't have the computer. We wouldn't have this camera that I had to go grab and hook up. We wouldn't have this light that's in front of me. Yeah, I have a light. This is not just lighting from my home. This is a light that I have in front of me for video recording. This is all because of your support. Check us out on social media. We're all over the internet. You see the links here beside of me. 9 different places you can find us on social media. So go find us, subscribe, like, click the bell for notifications, share our content. Join us every Shabbat. 10:30 a.m. We're at 128 Boring Street. If you need to know the directions or a map, all you have to do is go to olivetreemessianic.org. olivetreemessianic.org. It will take you to our website. I try to put as much as I possibly can on the homepage for you. That way you don't need to go any farther than just the homepage to find really about 75% of what you want to know. Now, if you want frequently asked questions, you got to click on another button. If you want tour reading schedules, although I do have some briefly listed for you on the homepage, but if you want the whole schedule, you got to click on another button. But I've had people tell me that our website is one of the best. It has everything that you need on there. So go check us out, olivetreemessianic.org. Always look for our logo to make sure you know you have the right olive tree. Not that the others are bad, but if you're looking for us, this is the logo you need to look for. All right. Again, thank you for being here with us today. I greatly appreciate it. God bless you all. Again, it could be 2 to 3 weeks before you see us again for our midweek study. We're going to be at Olive Tree, though, every Shabbat. Yes, I'm going to a conference, but we're not going to miss a Shabbat service. The conference is only 4 days. It starts on a Sunday. We'll be back on Thursday. Keep us in your prayers, not just for safe travels, but for a wonderful, wonderful conference, for an easy trip. You know, traveling can be difficult, but with God, it can be easy. Amen. So keep us in your prayers. God bless you. I pray you have a wonderful, wonderful week. I look forward to seeing all of you this coming Shabbat. Shavua Tov. Have a good week.